In the bustling streets of Lagos, where the scent of frying plantains mixed with the exhaust fumes of danfos and okadas, one aroma stood out. It traveled like a spirit through the crowded roads, wrapping itself around buildings, floating into homes, and pulling people toward its source like an unseen force. It was the scent of Mama Nene's stew. Rich, thick, irresistible. Some swore they could smell it from miles away. Others claimed that even after eating elsewhere, they would still crave it. It had a way of lingering in the mind, calling people back, demanding that they return for another plate. People stood in long, winding queues, fanning themselves under the scorching Lagos sun, waiting, yes, waiting, for their turn. It didn't matter if they were late for work. It didn't matter if they had eaten earlier. It didn't even matter if the price had gone up. They waited. Every day, without fail, the queue stretched beyond the roadside where Mama Nene's restaurant stood, a simple wooden structure with red plastic chairs and mismatched tables, shaded under large, patched-up umbrellas. "Mama Nene, abeg, make my own jollof rice with extra stew," a hungry customer would plead. Another would wave cash in the air, desperately trying to get her attention. "Mama, I will pay extra, just serve me first." The workers, young women and boys she had employed, hurried from table to table, scooping steaming jollof rice, swallow, and pounded yam, drowning them in the mystical red stew that made Mama Nene the undisputed queen of roadside food. But what they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that this stew was unlike any other. Beneath its rich red color, beneath its deep and unforgettable taste, was a secret. A secret that had made Mama Nene a wealthy woman. A secret that could never be revealed. Because if it ever came to light, the people would burn her alive. She had built an empire on blood. And soon, that empire would crumble. But before all of this, let us go back to the very beginning, to 20 years ago, where it all started. The day Obinna died, the world felt like it had come to an end. Mama Nene had been so sure that life was just beginning. She had been 25 when she married him, a tall, strong man with eyes that burned with passion, a deep voice that made her knees weak, and hands that had promised her a future filled with love and security. He had worked as a civil servant, earning a decent salary that was enough to take care of her and their young daughter, Nene, who was barely 5. They were happy. Until one night, everything changed. Obinna came home looking unwell. "Are you okay?" she had asked, concern wrinkling her forehead as she noticed how pale he looked. "I just need to rest," he had muttered. That was the last thing he ever said. By morning, he was cold and lifeless, his body stiff beside hers. The scream that tore from Mama Nene's throat could be heard across the neighborhood. When the doctor arrived, the diagnosis was quick and clear. Heart attack. But the family did not believe it. A young, healthy man in his early 30s. Dead in his sleep. It could not be natural. The whispers began at the funeral. "She killed him. How can a young man just die like that? No sickness, nothing. Women like this, they always have secrets." The murmurs grew into accusations. Mama Nene begged, pleaded, swore on her life that she had nothing to do with it. But her cries fell on deaf ears. 2 days after the burial, they came for her, Obinna's brothers, his uncles, the elders of the village. They stormed into her home, dragged her out by the wrapper, and threw her into the streets. "You are no longer part of this family." The house, the land, everything her husband had worked for was taken from her. She had nowhere to go. Nowhere to hide. And so, with nothing but a small bag of clothes and her daughter clinging to her waist, she walked away. That night, under the cold sky, a new kind of pain settled in her heart. A pain that hardened into hatred. A hatred so deep, so dark, that it would lead her down a path she could never return from. Lagos was not kind to a single mother with no money. The city was filled with people chasing their own survival, and nobody had time for a widow and her child. Mama Nene took any job she could find. She washed clothes for strangers. She scrubbed floors in wealthy homes. She hawked sachet water under the scorching sun. She did everything just to put food in Nene's mouth. But it was never enough. Her daughter deserved more. She deserved the best schools. She deserved to stand tall in the world. She deserved justice for what was stolen from them. But how? How could a woman with no money, no land, and no help give her daughter the future she deserved? The answer came one fateful evening. It started as a normal day. She had gone to the market, hoping to buy food with the little money she had. And that was when she met the woman in black. She was old, dressed in layers of black wrappers, her fingers adorned with cowrie rings. The woman had been watching her. "You want to be rich?" she asked. Mama Nene frowned. Who are you?" The woman smiled, her yellow teeth showing. "You want people to crave your food? To beg for it? To spend all their money on your meals?" Mama Nene hesitated. A shiver ran down her spine. I just want to take care of my daughter." The woman's smile widened. "There is a way. But it is not for the weak." That night, Mama Nene followed her. Deep into the heart of the market, where no one dared to go after dark. And there, inside a candlelit hut, she met the witch doctor. "You want wealth?" the man asked without looking up. Mama Nene swallowed hard. "Yes. You will mix your menstrual blood into your stew every market day," the man said. "It will bind your customers to you. They will crave your food like a drug. Your restaurant will grow. Money will flow." She felt sick. She almost refused. But then she thought of Nene. She thought of poverty. And she said the words that would curse her forever. "I accept." Mama Nene woke up before dawn, her mind clouded with thoughts of what she had done the previous night. She sat on the edge of the thin mattress in the one-room shack she had rented in a crowded part of Lagos, staring at the flickering flame of the kerosene lantern. Her heart was pounding, her palms were sweaty, and the voice of the witch doctor echoed in her ears. "Once you begin, you must never stop." A strange sense of dread settled in her chest, but she shook it off. This was for Nene. This was for the future stolen from them. She reached for a small, black calabash on the floor beside her bed, the one the old woman had given her after the ritual. She opened it slowly. A dark, thick substance sat at the bottom, swirling slightly, as if alive. Her stomach turned. The woman's voice came back to her. "Your first batch must come from here. After that, you will use your own blood." Mama Nene closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and reached for a small knife. Her hands trembled. Her entire body screamed at her to stop. But she couldn't. She wouldn't. With one swift motion, she dipped the blade into her palm, watching as warm blood poured into the calabash. And just like that, she had sealed her fate. The next morning, the streets of Oyingbo Market were already alive with movement by the time she arrived. Lagos never slept, but the market was a world of its own, vendors shouting prices, Okada riders honking impatiently, and buyers haggling at the top of their voices. Mama Nene walked through the noise, her mind racing. She could feel the weight of the calabash in her bag, pressing against her back like a dark secret. As she set up her small food stall, she noticed the other food vendors eyeing her with curiosity. New woman for this side. One of them, a thick-set woman named Mama Sword, called out, her hands busy pounding yam in a large mortar. Mama Nene forced a smile. "Yes, I just got a space here." "Oh, welcome, Mama Sword said, before turning back to her work. Mama Nene exhaled slowly and focused on her task. She set up her clay stove, lit the fire, and placed a large blackened pot on top. The scent of onions and pepper sizzling in hot palm oil filled the air, drawing the first set of customers to her stall. She pretended not to notice them staring, their noses twitching as they inhaled deeply. "Madam, you never start today's sale," one of them asked. "In a few minutes," Mama Nene responded, her voice steady despite the storm raging in her chest. She reached into her bag and pulled out the calabash. Her hands shook slightly as she lifted the lid. The thick substance inside pulsed, as if it knew. She didn't think. She just poured. The dark liquid slid into the pot, disappearing into the red palm oil and sizzling peppers. For a moment, she felt nothing. Then, a strange warmth spread through her fingers. The stew bubbled violently, its color deepening into a rich, intoxicating red. The aroma thickened, wrapping itself around the stall like an invisible mist. And then it happened. The first customer stepped forward, his eyes glassy, his body moving as if pulled by an unseen force. "Madam, give me a plate," he whispered. By midday, word had spread. People were talking about her food, claiming it was unlike anything they had ever tasted. "It's different," one man said, licking his lips after finishing his plate of jollof rice. "I beg, add extra stew," another woman begged, pushing forward her plate. Even Mama Sod, who had ruled the food market for years, was now watching with narrowed eyes. But Mama Nene didn't care. She was winning. She was finally on top. That evening, when she counted her money, she couldn't believe her eyes. She had made triple the amount she expected. Her hands trembled as she ran her fingers over the ₦1 notes. This was just the beginning. With each passing month, the crowd grew. People fought for a spot in her queue. She expanded her stall into a small restaurant, hired more workers, and most importantly, she sent Nene abroad. Her daughter now walked the streets of London, studying law at one of the best universities in the world. Mama Nene sat in her big new house, staring at the picture of Nene in her graduation gown, tears of joy streaming down her cheeks. She had done it. She had won. But in the darkness of her room, the voice of the witch doctor came back to her. "You must never stop." For 10 years, the business flourished. She bought lands, cars, and properties. She was no longer the widow they once mocked. She was Mama Nene, the queen of Lagos food. But then, one night, she woke up in a cold sweat. Something was wrong. Her heart pounded violently in her chest. She rushed to the calendar on her wall, her hands shaking. Her period. It had stopped. Her body had changed. And with it, so had her power. At first, she ignored it. She believed she could cheat fate. She boiled herbs, took local remedies, anything to force her body to bleed again. But nothing worked. And then, the customers stopped coming. The aroma that once beckoned people from miles away began to fade. Her flesh began to shrink, her once robust body turning frail. Then came the boils. First, small lumps on her arms. Then, painful sores spread across her face and legs. And still, the customers dwindled. Mama Sod, her old rival, stood in front of her restaurant one afternoon, watching with a smirk. "Shebi, I tell you say market no be for one person alone." Mama Nene said nothing. Because deep down, she knew the truth. Her time was up. And the spirits had come for their payment. Mama Nene stood in front of her once thriving restaurant, staring at the near-empty queue with a mix of anger and fear. Her plump, powerful frame had withered. The flesh that once filled her boo-boos now sagged, her once shining, dark skin now dull and covered in painful boils. She adjusted her wrapper, her hands shaking as she struggled to keep her balance. The pain in her joints was unbearable, but it was nothing compared to the terror gripping her chest. The voices of the spirits whispered in her ears now, mocking her. You thought you could escape the price? Your blood has dried up, Mama Nene. And now, it is time to pay. A sharp pain shot through her chest, and she clutched at her heart, gasping. The market women stared, whispering among themselves. She no look well at all. Oh. Wetin they do, Mama Nene? She know they glow again like before. The workers in her restaurant hesitated, exchanging nervous glances. It was happening. Just like the witch doctor had warned. She had stopped the ritual. And now, the spirits were collecting their debt. 3 days later, the unthinkable happened. Nobody came. Not a single customer stood outside her restaurant. For the first time in 10 years, her pots of stew remained untouched. The once irresistible aroma that used to float across the streets, dragging people in like a magical force, had vanished. She sat behind the counter, her breath shallow, her vision blurred. She couldn't eat. She couldn't sleep. Every day, more boils erupted on her skin, oozing pus. Her once round cheeks hollowed out, and her eyes sunk deeper into their sockets. She tried everything. She prayed to the gods she had long abandoned. She visited every herbalist in Lagos, begging them for a cure. She even returned to the witch doctor, demanding another solution. But the old man only laughed. Your blood is gone, woman. The spirits have no use for you anymore. You cannot escape. That night, she sat in her empty restaurant, staring at the door. Would death walk in to claim her now? Would the spirits drag her away in the night? Was this how it was going to end? It had been 5 years since Nene had been home. Now a brilliant young lawyer, she had built a name for herself in London, representing powerful clients in high-profile cases. When she received the phone call about her mother's mysterious sickness, she dropped everything and booked the next flight home. Stepping into the house she barely recognized, her heart sank. The large mansion that her mother had boasted about on their calls now smelled of medicine and death. The woman who had once been strong and full of laughter now lay on a thin mattress, covered in boils and open wounds. Nene gasped. Mama. Mama Nene turned her head slowly, her eyes glassy and sunken. Nene, my child. Her voice came out as a whisper. Nene rushed to her side, tears already streaming down her face. What happened to you? She choked. Mama Nene turned away, ashamed. How could she tell her? How could she admit what she had done? But before she could speak, the whispers returned. Tell her the truth. Confess, Mama Nene. Or you will not live to see another sunrise. 2 nights later, Nene made a desperate decision. She had heard of a powerful pastor, a man known for casting out evil spirits and breaking generational curses. His name was Pastor Elijah. She found his small church on the outskirts of Lagos, knelt before him, and begged for help. My mother is dying, she said, her voice breaking. Please, Pastor, I need you to pray for her. The pastor studied her for a long time. Then he nodded. Take me to her. When Pastor Elijah stepped into the house, he froze at the entrance. His eyes darkened. His lips tightened. There was a heaviness in the air. An evil presence. He knew immediately that this was not just sickness. This was a curse. He turned to Nene. How long has your mother been sick? Almost 6 months, Nene whispered. He nodded. Prepare yourself. The truth will come out tonight. The moment Pastor Elijah placed his hand on Mama Nene's head, she began to convulse. A low growl erupted from her throat. Then a voice that was not her own spoke. She is ours. She fed from us. She will die with us. Nene screamed. The pastor did not flinch. He lifted his hands toward the ceiling. Heavenly Father, reveal the works of darkness. A gust of wind blew through the room, rattling the furniture. Then, suddenly, Mama Nene sat up straight, her eyes wide with terror. She looked around the room, her body shaking violently. She choked. "Speak," Pastor Elijah commanded. And in a single breath, she confessed everything. The ritual. The witch doctor. The blood in the stew. The addiction she had created. When she was done, the silence was deafening. Nene staggered backward, unable to breathe. Her mother. The food that had paid for her education. The wealth they had lived on. All of it had been built on human blood. A knock sounded at the door. And when Nene turned, she saw a crowd of people outside. The workers from the restaurant. The market women. The men and women who had eaten from her mother's pot for years. They had heard everything. And now, they wanted justice. The angry mamas outside the house turned into shouts. "She has confessed. She used blood magic to make us crave her food. We were eating from the devil's pot." The market women, the men who had once begged for extra stew, the very people who had praised Mama Nene's food for years, they were all gathered outside, faces twisted in fury. Someone picked up a stone and hurled it against the house. Then another. Then another. The windows shattered, glass flying across the room where Mama Nene lay, still trembling from her confession. "Mama!" Nene gasped, shielding her from the falling shards. Pastor Elijah rose to his feet, his face grave. "This is not good," he muttered. A loud bang shook the door. Then another. They were trying to break in. "They will kill her," Nene whispered, panic in her eyes. Her mother was too weak to run. Her body too damaged to fight back. Pastor Elijah turned to Nene. "Get her out of here. Now." "But where?" she choked. A piercing scream rang through the air. Nene rushed to the window and froze. Flames. Someone had set fire to the restaurant. Her mother's empire, the business she had built over 10 years, was now engulfed in flames. A lifetime of wealth and success was being reduced to ashes. And it was only the beginning. Nene threw her mother's arm over her shoulder, trying to lift her up. "Mama, we have to go," she whispered. Mama Nene groaned, barely able to move. The door shook violently. Then, crash! It flew open. A group of men and women stormed in, their eyes wild with rage. "There she is," one of them shouted. "She must pay for what she has done." Before they could react, Pastor Elijah stepped in front of Mama Nene, lifting his hands. "Enough." The power in his voice shook the room. For a brief moment, the crowd hesitated. "You came here seeking justice," Pastor Elijah said, his deep voice commanding attention. "And you will have it. But this is not the way. She bewitched us. She used blood in our food," a woman shrieked. "She stole our free will," another man added. "Yes," the pastor nodded. "And she will answer for it. But not with death." The anger in the room wavered. Then, sirens. The police. Someone must have called them. Nene felt her mother stiffen in her arms. And for the first time, true fear flashed in Mama Nene's eyes. The police were not here to save her. They were here to take her away. The officers pushed through the angry mob, forcing them back. "Who is the suspect?" one of them asked. Pastor Elijah stepped aside, revealing Mama Nene. "She is the one." Mama Nene's lips trembled. Her once powerful presence was now a shadow of itself. The officers grabbed her arms, pulling her up roughly. "Mama, no!" Nene cried, trying to hold on to her. Her mother turned to her, eyes filled with shame and regret. "I did this for you," she whispered. Nene's heart shattered. The woman who had raised her, protected her, sent her to the best schools in the world. was now being dragged away in handcuffs. As they led her outside, the crowd erupted in cheers. They had gotten their justice. But for Nene, this was the worst day of her life. The case moved fast. Mama Nene was charged with multiple offenses, including food contamination, illegal occult practices, and public endangerment. The prosecution painted a horrifying picture. Thousands of people had unknowingly consumed her ritual food, unknowingly trapped in her dark spell. It was one of the biggest scandals in Lagos history. Every newspaper, every TV station, every social media platform exploded with the story. The woman who fed Lagos blood. Momo put queen or secret witch. Shocking revelation, the dark magic behind the best stew in Lagos. People who once adored her now spoke of burning her alive. Nene sat in the courtroom every day, watching as her mother's life unraveled before her eyes. Mama Nene sat motionless, her once plump body now thin and frail, her skin covered in bandages from her sores. But the worst part? She didn't fight the charges. She pleaded guilty. She had accepted her fate. And when the judge finally spoke, his voice rang through the silent courtroom like a death sentence. Mama Nene, for the crimes committed, you are hereby sentenced to 20 years in prison. A heavy silence filled the room. Then the gavel struck. It was over. Nene buried her face in her hands, sobbing. Her mother, her only family, would spend the rest of her life behind bars. With her mother in jail, Nene was left with nothing. The mansions, the lands, the cars, all sold in an attempt to cure her mother's sickness. The restaurant, burned to the ground. All that remained was herself and the stain of her mother's crime. But she was not done. She was a lawyer now. And she would not stop fighting. Every month, she visited her mother in prison. Every month, she filed appeals, begging the court for leniency. And every month, she was denied. But she would not give up. Because no matter what her mother had done, she was still her mother. One afternoon, as Nene sat outside the courthouse, exhausted from another denied appeal, she heard footsteps beside her. She looked up and saw Pastor Elijah. He sat down beside her, his eyes filled with wisdom and kindness. She may not be free in the eyes of the law, he said, gently. But she has been freed from something far worse. Nene swallowed hard. She's still suffering, she whispered. The pastor smiled faintly. Suffering is sometimes the price of redemption. Nene closed her eyes, her heart aching. She didn't know if she would ever forgive her mother. She didn't know if she would ever forgive herself for benefiting from it. But she knew one thing. She would never stop fighting. For justice. For redemption. For the woman who had sacrificed everything for her. Even her own soul. Sitting in the cold, dimly lit police cell, Mama Nene had nothing left but regret. The walls around her were bare, the air heavy with the stench of loss and loneliness. The woman who once commanded power, whose name echoed through Lagos streets, was now just a prisoner in an orange jumpsuit, a shadow of herself. For the first time in years, she had time to think. Time to reflect on where she went wrong. She had been a victim, a widow abandoned, stripped of everything, mocked, rejected, and left with nothing. But was revenge truly the answer? Had she chosen fate, had she endured a little longer, would her story have ended differently? Perhaps she could have walked her way up honestly. Perhaps the same God who delivered her from hunger could have blessed her in another way. But she had been impatient. She had chosen the easy way, the way of darkness, and now she was paying the price. Her biggest regret was her daughter. She had done everything for Nene. She had built an empire for her, sent her to the best schools, giving her a life of luxury and comfort. But at what cost? Now, the daughter she had sacrificed everything for was ashamed of her. Now, the child she had wanted to protect was left with nothing but the stain of her crimes. If she could go back, she would have done things differently. She would have chosen patience. She would have believed that no condition in life is permanent, that pain does not last forever, that those who endure suffering with faith will one day be rewarded. Instead, she had taken a shortcut to success, and that shortcut had led her straight to destruction. Mama Nene's story is a powerful reflection of real life. Every day, people face challenges, people suffer injustice, and many are tempted to take shortcuts to success. But every action has consequences. No matter how unfair life seems, no matter how hard things get, we must never let desperation push us into darkness. It is better to struggle in honesty than to rise in evil, because one day, the truth always comes out. For those of us who eat from roadside restaurants, this story should serve as a wake-up call. Do we truly know what goes into the food we eat? Are we careful about where we buy our meals? The world is full of secrets, and as Mama Nene's story shows, not all food is just food. Does Mama Nene deserve forgiveness? Now, let's hear from you, our viewers. Do you think Mama Nene deserved her punishment? She pleaded guilty. She regretted her actions. She only wanted to give her daughter a better life. Should the court show her mercy? Or should she serve her full sentence for deceiving thousands of people and playing with their lives? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's discuss. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and share this video. Let's spread awareness so that we all become more careful about where we eat and the choices we make in life. And most importantly, subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on our next mind-blowing story. Thank you to all our subscribers, your support means the world to us. Your likes, comments, and shares keep us going, and they motivate us to bring you even more thrilling African folktales. Stay safe, stay wise, and remember, not all that glitters is gold. See you in the next story.